Hello, everyone. Uh, Today we are back with another episode on another important aspect of our society, our life, which is education. In the last episode, we discussed about the the movement of division, how the human mind is so naturally conditioned or naturally accepting to divisions. How, and on basis of examples, we looked how division is a part of our natural life. And we have also received some questions about it from a few friends, and I would like to thank, first of all, to everyone who saw or watched that episode. And today I would not take the questions. Maybe we will take the questions together because they were not they were short questions. So maybe some questions from this episode and from the last episode together, we can make one video for questionnaires. So to begin with the question of education, if we see the definition from dictionary, from Wikipedia, or and just a general language dictionary definition of education, then it revolves around the idea of gathering of knowledge, information, skills, belief, and this kind of a complete package that the child receives from society, from where the child is living, in a way. So we would like to, in a way, question the definition and then maybe get close to how the definition can be a little bit improved, and we can bring a little few more aspects in there. Now, when we are talking in this episode, we are considering the parent and the educator, the teacher, together, because for the child, there is no distinction. The child is learning from his or her parents, and he's also learning from his teachers in the school, and so we are considering them together there. So when the child is born, for example, the first basic requirement that comes is physical security, which is like food, clothes, shelter. And usually we see in our societies that parents are providing these three things to their children, and like whoever can provide whatever, they are doing their best so that the child can receive the best food, shelter, nice clothes, so the child can grow physically nicely, so the organism can grow nicely. And then comes, at the same time as the child is growing, comes the part of shaping the mind of the child, in a way that the society, the parents, are also are also in a way conditioning the mind of the child, providing information about the physical geography, for example, which country the child is from, the cultural aspects, religious aspects, some family aspects, if they have some things which are common in their family. And so the child learns all this via family, and then he also grows physically and psychologically. He learns this, and including the language, of course. He learns the language from the family, and which we usually call as the mother tongue. So from there, we go to the next step, where the child is then sent to an institution, for example, a school, where he's supposed to learn some other things, like subjects. It could be language, some more languages, mathematics, science, biology, whatever you say. And then the child learns all that stuff in school as well. So if we if we see it from a general point of view, from a point of view like we are looking from above of how what is happening to the child. If I'm We are not talking at the moment physical requirements, considering that physically the child is secure and all things he has. We are talking about how the mind of the child is evolving or growing. Then it's a process of constant collection of knowledge. First, the child is collecting knowledge from his parents about his nationality, culture, religion, and all that stuff. And then he goes to the school, and then he starts collecting information about different technical fields, mathematics, science, maybe some other languages. So if you see, it's a complete one movement of gathering information, that in a way we are putting more and more information to the child, and the child is absorbing this information, and then psychologically his mind is getting more knowledge, and he feels like he's more growing. And this is how the education goes usually, that up to a level in school, then he chooses what more he wants to study or she wants to study, what specific field, medicine, engineering, astrophysics, and then they gain more knowledge about that field, and then they absorb more knowledge in that field, and eventually the person becomes an expert in whatever field he or she wants to be. And now let's look how this how this happens in school or even at home. What are the aspects that are what are the central points which are kind of hidden usually, which people don't pay attention to, but they play a very important role in child's education, which is also part of our education system. It doesn't matter which country you're from, some things are quite common. The first thing, for example, we see is the factor of comparison, that from beginning of the child's age and up to he finishes education, comparison is one thing which is constantly that he's facing in his life. Whether it be the comparison between students of his class in the school, that you are this rank, this guy is this rank, you are this kind of athlete, your friend is that kind of athlete, you are this, you are that, he's that. And even in the house, it could be experienced among brother and sisters, that your brother is like this, you're like this, your sister is like this, and you're like this. So this one aspect of comparison a child has to face his whole life when he's growing, and it is also a part of our education system, which we can easily see. Comparison, one. Now, what this comparison usually does, which is very, very sensible and logical, that it creates a kind of self-image in the child itself. For example, the comparison of a child who's not so good at studies with a child who is good at studies and has a better rank in the class or better scores in the exams, is that the guy with the less score or rank naturally feels hurt from this comparison, that he's also human, I'm also human. Just because he can score better or he can do this thing nicer, he's considered nice and I'm not considered so nice. So usually we call it as a driving factor. We use it as a driving factor for the child, that okay, if the child will feel this, he will get hurt, and from that hurt he will get more motivation to work harder and be the first ranker. But one thing is for sure, that in this process the child gets hurt, first of all. And this could also happen in family very naturally, that if you have more than one children, that one child is a little bit less ignored because the other child is more nice in studies or sports, or his general IQ or some other kind of things are better than the other child, so the child with better performance is given more credit by the family, and the other child feels hurt in that sense as well. So this factor of comparison creates or teaches the child how to be hurt, because when the child is born, he doesn't know what he is, but all of a sudden you tell him that he's stupid and his friend is smart because he can score some more marks in the exam and he can't. So this is what the child learns from this. Now, another thing that happens from this hurt is also that once you get hurt, you don't want to get hurt again, because no one likes to be hurt. So the hurt itself also naturally creates fear to protect, so that you don't get hurt next time. So naturally the child develops this habit of being afraid, because the child knows that if he's not performing nice, or if he's not doing this nice, he's afraid he will get hurt again, because he will be compared again, or will be told again that he's not as good enough as the other child. So the movement of comparison, the factor of comparison, naturally creates fear in the child. And the fear itself gives rise to another important factor, which is violence. That when the child is afraid to be hurt, he would like to defend. It's not just physical, which is also applied actually on physical terms, that when someone attacks you, you feel afraid that maybe he or she will hit me, and then in your protection, you defend. In the same way, when the child feels attacked psychologically by these things done by our parents, our teachers, who are constantly doing it, this movement of comparison, then the child also becomes afraid that he shouldn't feel hurt again. He feels afraid, and then eventually he becomes a little violent. Then he could feel a feeling of jealousy for this other child who is better than him, that why is he better than him, or this and this and this. So this one step of comparison gives rise to 5 different other problems, whether it's the problem of hurt, fear, violence, jealousy. All these things come into play as the moment you start this factor of comparison, whether it happens in the house or it happens in the school or not. Now, in school, it happens for sure. In most countries, in most schools, this is how the education is taking place. You compare the child, you rank the child, you make the system of who is better and who is stupid, and then that's how the system works. And we completely ignore of how this system is hurting a lot of our children every day. Every day, some child feels that he's not good enough. Every day, some child feels that he's not accepted by his parents or his teachers or his friends, because he's not good enough in some subject because that's how the structure is functioned. Now, this constant comparison and all this fear can be naturally observed in a lot of students. Maybe a lot of teachers who are working in this field, even the parents themselves, have or must have seen their child, that in the field of education, the child feels afraid of certain subject, or he feels afraid of certain things that he knows that he can't do nicely. And he's afraid because he knows that he will be eventually compared when he goes to the exam and he fails. He will be compared to the other students, and he's afraid of that. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want to feel that hurt again, that why am I facing it all over again and again. But sadly, this is our system. This is how we chose to educate our children. Now, above that, I would like to point one important aspect that we kind of neglect in the education, because we are so focused in giving more knowledge to the child, more technical knowledge, more whatever field the child is working on, give him more knowledge and make him an expert in that subject. So we completely neglect that how the child should also be given information or training or learning about life itself. That, for example, when I I was a young child, and I have this little bit memory in my head that I would feel afraid of something, and I would go to my mother and I say, "Hey, mom, I'm feeling afraid. Can you help me with this? With this feeling?" And her solution was to give me like a mantra, a phrase to repeat. She would say, "Just repeat this mantra, and something will happen, and your fear will go away." And this is the kind of, just as an example, that this is the kind of importance we give to the factors of life when it comes to education. When the child needs to be educated about fear or jealousy or hurt, these kind of factors which he has to live with every day, the kind of education we give in return is really, sorry to use the word, but really stupid usually. That we are so focused in making the child technically advanced and technically strong that we completely neglect all these things about the child. I personally remember in my personal experience in the school that the general trend of the teachers was to make the child afraid, make the child terribly scared of the subject, so that the child starts to pay more attention to it, because the child is afraid that if he doesn't pay attention, something really drastically bad is going to happen. Okay, so this was a common thing, and maybe where my education happened in India, it was also accompanied by some physical violence by the teacher, that they would also maybe slap you, beat you with a stick or something like that, and make you force to learn the subject. So maybe nowadays it's not happening, maybe in some countries it's not happening, but there is still this psychological pressure on the child when it comes to education. And this only happens because we are training all the children for the subjects, for the languages, for everything, but we are not training them on how to handle life itself. Because when they will live in the society later, they will have to face these problems every day. And the solutions we are generally giving, well, most of the time these things are not discussed, first of all. And even if they are discussed very lightly, not taking seriously, and just give some solution like my mother, like a mantra. Okay, repeat this and you will not feel fear. And the child feels that it's the solution, because for the child, mother is everything at that time. So we do this, and then the child eventually comes to know that this method doesn't work, because fear comes back again. So overall, there is an imbalance in the psychological aspect of the child to what we call giving knowledge to the child. The giving knowledge or technical knowledge, linguistic knowledge, is really advanced, but the psychological knowledge or the psychological help the child needs at the same time is not there at all. The growth of the child requires both things in balance, physical and psychological. But sadly, in most societies, the focus is done only on the physical. Give him nice clothes, nice food, nice shelter, and the parents feel that their job is done, which is really big sadness, And then they also feel that they love their child, which is the beautiful hypocrisy, so as to say that the parent thinks that they love the child, but in reality they do not, because when the parent loves their child, they don't send their child to places where they are getting constantly hurt. For example, in schools, they don't support this kind of education system which is currently going on. But that's a different question at the moment. So the overall thing comes to the juice that you need to consider physical and psychological both, because both are equally important for the child. Now, this can also be seen that usually if you want to see the test of how the education system works in any country or in any region, then the best test to see how nicely it is working is to see the society of that place. For example, it is very common to teach in schools that do not lie, always help others, honesty is the best policy. These kind of statements are floating everywhere in the schools. Okay, but when these kids go out of the school and start living in society, performing tasks in society, all these statements are constantly not used, not lived by them. That all these students who are coming out are not just actually living them. They just remembered them to pass an exam, and now they don't they don't care about it. Now the educator can say, what's my mistake in that if the child is not following or something? But the child is not coming from outer space. The child is also learning everything from his society, from his teachers, from his parents. It is also common that the parents also do the same thing, that they are saying these statements, don't speak bad things, always honesty and this, but when it actually comes to living their life, they don't follow these things. A person says to his child that, hey, don't lie, child, but maybe when this person is late at home, coming back to his wife, and then he's lying to his wife and then telling his child, hey, don't tell your mother that I'm late today or something. Or just as an example, I'm saying that because the parents and the teachers themselves are living hypocritically, that what they say, they don't live. So the child is not foolish. He sees this or she sees this. The child can observe that these statements are only said just to say. Okay? In the same way, the child can observe that in the school, the main focus of the educator is just to give this technical knowledge of his subject. Because most of the teachers actually don't care about the children's future or how the child will live. They don't care about it. They care about their money, which is coming in their account. They care about, okay, I have to do my job and I have to give this information to the child. So in reality, the child can see that all these statements are just hypocritical statements printed on the wall, put on the wall. But actually, when it comes to life, the only statement that works is look for your own profit. Because that's what the child sees doing his parent. That's what the child sees doing his teachers are doing. That's what the child sees in his society. That everybody is just looking for their own profit. Simple as that, just to put it simply. So naturally, the child learns this from everyone and from the whole surrounding that, okay, these statements are just to be used. But when it actually comes that the father says in the morning, don't lie to anyone, my child. And then the father goes to the shop and lies to his customer about the product just to make money. So the father may think that he's teaching his child that please don't lie, but the child is learning that that statement was just to use. So the big proof of this then eventually comes from our societies. Our societies have huge imbalances. No one actually cares for anyone else. Okay, maybe there are few exceptions who are actually really doing for other people as well, but most people are not, and this can be seen easily in the society that everyone is running for their own profit, whether he's an educator, whether he's a parent, whether he's anyone else. Now, then the proof of society is more important than what the educator or the parent feels about them. Because a lot of educators and a lot of parents have this bad or stupid misconception in their head that we have done a really nice job in raising our children. But if the educator and the parent would have done a really nice job, our societies would have been way different. Our societies would have been the example of those statements which we teach our kids, but they are not. Usually, our societies are example of power, corruption, self-profit. This is the usual examples you see in society. No one cares for anyone. Everyone is just for himself or his family or his house, which is the central movement of society. Self-centered activity is the central movement of society in general. So we should see it as a problem in our system that parents, educators, society, we are not doing a right job when it comes to educating our children. We are paying full attention in giving them all the technical information, making them an expert in the job, in a field. But we are completely lacking, or we are doing a disaster when it comes to teaching them how to live their life. Every person in their life faces challenges. But how many people, how many parents, how many educators have taught their children how to face a challenge? That a child will be faced with thousands of challenges when he grows. How many times a parent or an educator has sat down with a child and says, hey child, look, life is full of problems. Every day there will be some problem. So how do you solve a problem? What is a problem? Why is there a problem in life at all? These kind of questions are not asked or put forward at all in front of the child. So naturally, the children are incapable of solving the problems, because as my mother's solution, the children usually learn this kind of solution, that when the problem comes, run to someone, find an expert in that field, ask for solution. If you can't do that, look for some higher power, go to a temple, go to a church, pray to solve your problem. This is what the child learns, and then that's what the child do. That's what you see in every country. People are doing this. You're not able to solve a problem, you run to something. And in a way, this is happening because we are not giving importance in our education system to these kind of things. We are not giving importance to this, that if people in our societies are afraid, they will be violent. An afraid person will want to defend because he is afraid. So why are we not teaching our children how to face fear? Why are we not teaching our children what is the movement of jealousy? Why all these important factors which actually make our society, which actually make the experience of living, are neglected completely in this education system? Whether it's in the school or whether it's in the house. Everyone wants to make their child learn mathematics as soon as possible, make him a nice pianist, make him a nice this and that, but nobody is concerned in making him a nice person, actually. Because eventually every parent, every educator know that these lines, honesty is the best policy and this, are just to put on the walls. When it comes to real life, look for your own profit. Hurt other people. Win from other people. It's a race. You have to go forward, We just act like animals, even though we claim to be evolved ones. And when animals are fighting for this, it's understandable. They don't have any other option. But when an evolved nervous system, an evolved brain is doing this, then it means the brain is not using itself. It's just acting stupid. So this problem, this concern should be addressed in the education system, because the way we are educating now, doesn't matter what any teacher thinks about himself or herself or her methods or what, the proof is our society. And the society is not what it should be at the moment. Maybe in some countries, some small countries, it's easy to maintain things and things are still nice there. But usually you take any big prosperous country, whether it's States, Japan, China, anywhere, this huge problem is still existing. That everyone is fighting with everyone is racing everyone is ready to hurt everyone else. So, and this is all, the child is not born with all this. The child comes as a blank page, and we are putting it in the child. Especially this stupid concept of comparison that we keep insisting in our children from the beginning. We teach our children to get hurt. This is, I don't know how stupid it is. There's no words to put it. That we deliberately teach our children to feel hurt. A child learns this. When a child is born, he doesn't know what hurt is. He maybe know what a physical hurt is, but he doesn't know how it feels to be psychologically hurt when someone insults you. And we teach it every day to our child by comparing, by this movement of comparison in the school, in the house, everywhere. And then this is what the child learns. And then this is what the child does when he goes to society. He compares himself with others, he hurts others, looks for his self-profit, and then you have a beautiful society where you feel like, hey, why is society like this? Then we ask this question. Society is like this because we are like this. We are the representation of comparison. We are inefficient in educating our children. This word love that parent and educator are constantly propaganding is not being executed properly. It's a doubt that if they actually love their children or not. Because if they would have, they would have put some effort, they would have worked on it, they wouldn't make their child believe. When you make someone believe something, you're making this person blind, that you are teaching this person that this person is incapable of finding the fact, so he should believe. You understand? So, but we are giving these kind of things as a gift to our children. Believe this, my child. You see, he's so nice. Look at this guy. Learn from this guy. He's so rich. You should be like him. So, constant movement of comparison. Constant movement of this stupidity is going on. So, I feel there is a need to address this in our societies, in our education system, that the factors like fear, comparison, jealousy, hurt should be taken equally important as a subject, as a technical subject of mathematics, physics, and the children should know how to handle these things in their life. Because when children is capable of all these things, imagine when the child is not afraid, when he's coming out as a full human with the technical knowledge in him and psychologically so capable that he knows how to handle his problems. He knows how to handle his fears. He knows how to handle whatever is coming to him. So that kind of human being will create a much sensible, a much simpler society, which is where living would be more easy, where living would be more natural. But the problem is, at the moment, no focus is given to living itself. The only focus is given is just putting more knowledge into the system. That's it. What about life? We don't know. Figure it yourself. The child has to figure out himself. All his psychological problems, the child has to figure out himself or herself. If it doesn't happen, work so, pay for some psychologist, some psychiatrist, and go. Psychoanalyst, go. Learn from this guy. He will teach you something. He will tell you something about yourself, and that's it. So if, again, it's the same thing. If the parents and the teachers would actually care, would actually do a good job, the society will be the proof of it. So looking how the society is at the moment, totally divided, fighting with each other, highly self-centered, and all these aspects which anyone can observe in society. It's not that they are not visible. Anyone can observe these things in society. The education is failing every day because the child is not born with all this kind of crap. We are putting this crap in the child. We are teaching the child how to be hurt. We are teaching the child how to be afraid. We are teaching the child how to compare and hurt other person for your own profit. The child is not coming with all this thing when he's born. So I would request the parents, I would request the educators, please come out of your imagination. Please come out of your bubble. If we want something better, if we want something fruitful, something beautiful in the future for our children, if you actually care for your children, please do something about it. Please show it. Don't just show it in your Facebook post by putting photographs and this and this. Show it in your action. Your responsibility is not just to give technical information. Education is not the cultivation of knowledge. It is the cultivation of the whole human being. And the whole human being is very complex. And I can understand why the teachers and parents are neglecting this, because they haven't figured it out themselves. Most parents and teachers don't know how to deal with fear. Most of them don't know how to deal with jealousy and all these kind of things. So what they do is naturally just neglect it. Just try to do things they know, and that's it. Get paid, we get the money, parent feels he's done the job, and the child has to suffer in the end. The child has to face this in his life, and eventually those who can't go through depression, anxiety, and all kind of problems leading to suicides and other problems. And this is how we are leaving our children. Like, just we play with them for a few years after they're born, and then we just leave them. Now figure out yourself. Everything is on your own. So it's that moment of crisis in every part of the globe, or in every country, that the parents or the educators have a responsibility. So please understand the responsibility. It's not a game that you're playing that. If you're not capable, please stop doing it. Please don't put out more children. Please don't make more children if you're incapable of raising them. Because your responsibility is surely not just to provide food and shelter and clothes. It is more than that. It is way more than that. It is to make them humans. And to make them humans, you have to show them what is a human. To show them what is a human, you have to live like a human. If you live like an animal, cutting each other's throat, living with the self-centered movement, that is what the child will learn. Doesn't matter how many times you repeat honesty is the best policy, he will not learn it. He will learn hypocrisy is the best policy. Say something, do something. Because that's what happens in the society, that's what happens in our houses, that's what happens in our schools. And that's what the child learns. And that's what we see. So, beautiful words will not do anything. Actions will lead somewhere if it has to be something like this. So I request all of the viewers or anyone who is watching, if you're a parent, if you're an educator, if you are related to some child in any sense, please understand your responsibility. It is not just to teach them 2 into 2 is 4, 5 times 10 is this, Newton did this, Einstein did that. It's not just that. It is way more than that. And if you can't do it, then understand your incapacity, that you're incapable of helping your child. Because then that incapacity will inspire you to work on yourself. Then understand it. Then be honest with your child when he comes to you that, Mom or Dad, what should I do when I feel afraid? Just tell them we don't know what you should do, because even we don't know what to do. At least in that honesty, you will share the problem with the child. At least you can say, okay, child, I don't know what to do, but okay, maybe let's find out together. Let's investigate. Let's see how fear comes in our life. Let's see why fear comes in our life. Let's see what's the problem. Let's see how we should face a problem. If you haven't asked these questions to yourself as well. Because in life, every day, the child has to face them. And he deserves to be educated about them. Not just about some mathematical equations and something else. So, we should understand this. We shouldn't teach or educate our children with hurt, comparison, fear. These things will not be giving them a good education. This is a very shitty kind of education. This is how the animals educate their children, by fear, by physical violence, by beating or something like this. In some countries, I have faced this myself. My mathematics teacher used to beat me a lot. And okay, at that time I didn't know, but now I can feel it better, that the amount of damage he did for me, that the amount of fear he installed in me about mathematics, it took years for me to overcome with it. And I can understand if a person is not able to overcome with it at all. It's very natural. So this kind of stupidity should be stopped. This kind of stupid teachers should be stopped. And if you're a parent and you come to know that your child is being hurt in the school, your child has been taught to be afraid in the school, then you should take action about it. Go to that school. Ask them why they have this stupid kind of methods of teaching. Because no one likes to be afraid. No one likes to be hurt. And we are teaching it to our kids every day. So let's wake up and let's do something about it. Let's teach them the totality of life, not just a corner of life, which is just gathering information. Gathering information the child can do anyway. Nowadays we have internet. Even if the child doesn't go to school, he can learn anything. All this mathematics, physics, everything is available. So I don't think it's a problem nowadays. But the problem is, if the child gets psychologically damaged, it's very difficult to recover that damage. So please take care of your children. Don't let them go to these monsters who are doing all this kind of stupid education, who don't know what education is. Actually, truly speaking, most of them don't know what education is. They just stand up and become educators. calling themselves, promoting themselves on Facebook that they're educators. They're not. So let's do it. Let's change from ourselves. Let's understand our responsibility for our kids. And with that understanding of responsibility, naturally, a complete action will come. An action which will cover the physical aspect of the child and the psychological aspect of the child, both. And then I hope our children, when they will come out, will be more like complete humans, not broken, fragmented humans. So if you feel that you have observed this kind of things in your life, or you have some question on these things, then please write to us in the comment. It also helps the channel if you write in the comments, because last time most people just texted me on Facebook their questions, and I don't know, if some things you felt hurt, I think that we are doing this. So to acknowledge a mistake is just an act of honesty. So let's be responsible and let's do something about it, because they are our kids and we are claiming that we love them. That's all for today. Thank you.